So today we're going to talk a little bit about the background for the specific play of Macbeth. So the play was written in 1605 to 1606, somewhere around there. So that would have been after Queen Elizabeth died and James the First of England, formerly of Scotland, takes over the throne. So there was a interest from Shakespeare's perspective, because he would have been performing this play for King James, that to unite in some way England with Scotland, to show some unification as a way to flatter James, who himself was Scottish. Okay, now Macbeth is an openly political play, but it is also really more about the psychology behind what tempts a person to do a bad thing, and how does a good person give in to dark desires. Now, Macbeth is based on a real historical figure. It is most commonly classified as a tragedy, because we do have a character who we're told is a good person at the beginning, who brings himself low by the end. The play is set in Scotland 500 years prior to Shakespeare's time, so sometime around the year 1000. Now, even though Macbeth is a real person, Shakespeare's principal source was the Holinshed Chronicles of Scottish History, which was a mix of gossip and superstition and other kinds of material, fictional material. So Shakespeare was using material that was seriously flawed. There's also the presence of the supernatural in this play, which of course is fictional, but that is something that, when you're taking historical figures and you're trying to turn them into entertainment for an audience, you're allowed to stretch the truth. Now, the real Macbeth did become king in about 1040 after killing King Duncan in battle. So we do have a historical figure that did usurp the throne in Scotland. That was very common. Think, Beowulf. There's no real laws of succession in those more ancient time periods. So kind of the biggest and the strongest would have become king. There's also great unrest around this period between Scotland and England. If you've ever seen the movie Braveheart, you might have some idea there. But the Scottish, as far as the English are concerned, have always been seen as kind of wild and backwards. So there's a lot of tension historically between the two kingdoms. Okay. So James the First, you might know him from the King James Bible. That text was printed in his honor, and he's formerly James the Sixth of Scotland. In 1603, he becomes James the First, becoming a dual monarch of both Scotland and England. In previous plays, Shakespeare wrote negatively of Scotland, but uh, again, or Shakespeare wanted to emphasize through this play Scotland's unity with England. And so he tries very hard to flatter King James. And that would have been very common. If you're performing for the monarch, you don't want to do anything politically that would put you in hot water. Character Banquo is a direct descendant of King James. So, or I'm sorry, an ancestor of King James. So that is why Banquo is portrayed as a very good character. He has the same choice as Macbeth. He has the same encounter with the witches, but he behaves with honor and dignity. And again, that would have been a way to kind of flatter King James. The witches are in the play, and they don't necessarily direct the action of the play. The witches give a prophecy that sets the events in motion, but it's not clear how the witches really are involved with Macbeth's behavior, because he makes his own decisions. James the First was interested in the occult and the supernatural. The witches are an audience favorite. So their involved in the plot of the play, but not directly. And they might have been there just simply to entertain the king and entertain the audience. Okay, so this play is the shortest of all tragedies. It is a psychological play. It's one of the only plays where we see an actual relationship of a husband and wife. Ironically, there are many Shakespearean plays where characters get married. So at the end of almost every comedy, men and women pair up and marry, but we never really actually get to see couples in marriage. We sort of just see the weddings. The Macbeths here are an older married couple. They are childless and they are catalysts for each other. They become evil together, at least in the beginning of the play. So they're an alliance, for better or for worse, even though their alliance produces murder and evil and sin. They are, at the very least, a team together. And that's rare for us to see a marriage of an older couple in a Shakespearean play. All right, so some of you, if you're involved in theater at all, you might know the Curse of Macbeth. This is not required information, but just so you know, this play is very dark, it's very gory, and there's something unsettling about it because it implies that all of us have this darkness inside of us, and under the right circumstances we might give in to those dark impulses. So everyone likes to think of themselves as the hero of their own story, and no one likes to believe that they could do terrible things. But the point of Macbeth is that everybody has their breaking point. That there is somewhere out there some temptation that would be too much to resist, and that's frightening. So Macbeth as a play has gained a reputation for being cursed itself. And if you are in the theater, you're involved in a production, you're not supposed to say the title Macbeth. You're supposed to refer to it as the cursed play or the Scottish play. If you say the word Macbeth, the tradition is that you have to walk outside the theater, spin around 3 times, and then ask to be let in to cleanse the production. And as I said, the play is gained some reputation for being cursed. So these are some of the events that people have cited to back up the fact that the play must be haunted in some way. Okay, so during the first performance, Shakespeare played Lady Macbeth when the boy performing her became sick and died. In 1672, an actor playing Macbeth substituted a blunt stage dagger with a real one and then killed his co-star on stage. In 1937, a director was involved in a car accident. A patron had a heart attack, and the owner of the theater died, all right in a row. During a performance in 1849, 31 people were trampled to death in a sudden riot. In 1942, 3 actors were involved in a production and died, and the set designer committed suicide. This is my favorite one. In 1953, Charlton Heston, a very famous actor, suffered severe burns when his tights for his costume accidentally caught fire after being around kerosene in some way, or they had kerosene on them. So obviously he lived, but that is something that did happen. All right, and then rumor has it Abraham Lincoln was reading aloud from Macbeth to friends a week before he was assassinated. So if you're superstitious, and theater people tend to be superstitious, then you might not want to say the title Macbeth, because it's supposed to bring bad luck, and you just refer to it as the cursed play or the Scottish play. All right. And then finally, as I said, the witches in this play imply that a force of evil exists in the world. They are the frightening possibility that we are not always in control of our own actions. And again, that contributes to the superstition.